Good morning everyone, as always I'm Dan at Tring Shoe Repair and Key Shop. Welcome. Now today I'm showing you one of our deluxe jobs as we've got these lovely Trickers Chelsea boots in for a full leather resole and restoration. Keep watching to see how. Okay, so let's talk about the job. I'm just going to take you on a little tour of the boots. So, the leather sole is worn out, so we're going to replace the whole lot with a full through sole in JR leather, of course. Now, something special about this shoe, well, two special things I'll get to. You can see the stitching exposed here. That's just because it was worn through. It's actually been blind stitched, where the stitching is hidden underneath the leather. So we're going to blind stitch that. Now, we don't always do a blind stitch because it is tricky and time consuming, but if the customer wants it, we can do it. It also has a fiddle backed waist where we have that ridge down the middle, so we're going to put the fiddle back waist in. The heel top lift is worn down, so we need to replace that, but also the stacked leather heel block is worn down too low, so that needs replacing. We're going to replace the heel block too, and refurbish the uppers. Now I don't know if you can see, but the customer has asked me to see if I can get this scratch out, so there's a scratch right through the upper, so we'll see what we can do with that. So let's begin. First things first, we're just removing our old top lift. See, it's broken into two parts, the leather part and the rubber. So once we've got that off, we'll then take off the stacked leather heel block. Okay, so just getting our tool underneath, wiggling it around, gently lever it off. Now, if we were keeping the heel blocks, we'd do this as gently as possible. Well, not that I'm not doing it gently now, but we're replacing these heel blocks, so don't have to be quite so delicate. Hope everybody's doing all right. Let me know in the comments. Now I'm just chopping these pins off so they're easier to get out in a minute. Okay, and now we can start taking this sole off. Ready for its fresh new one. Okay, so there's our sole off. So moving on, next thing we're going to do is replace the cork, because you can see it easily comes out. It's all cracked, some of it's missing, so we're going to replace the cork. Before that, I'm just going to whip out these old nails. Okay, so here we are, we're at the point where we've got a cavity waiting for fresh cork. Now, I made a mistake, I didn't press record when I was taking the old cork out, but I'll give you a catch up. The old cork was cracked, it needed to come out. So, I'll tell you about cork, just as I'm putting some new cork in. The reason there's a cork layer is it's one of the main parts of the shoe that squashes down to the shape of your foot. It gives it that unique, personalised feeling that makes them feel like your old favourites that fit the unique shape of your foot. So but when it's cracked or missing, it needs replacing, especially when we're doing a deluxe job and the customer's just going to get it back like a new pair of shoes, but ready to be worn in. If it was completely intact, we could leave it and the customer would get back feeling like their old favorites, but well, when we're doing a deluxe job, we're going to give them back like new. So we're just getting in all the little cracks. We're leaving the original shank there, but we're going to pop some cork down the side of it. And then we can work at putting the JR soles on. Oh yeah. Okay, so here we are. We've got our brand new fresh JR leather sole. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about JR leather before, it really is the best stuff you can get in the world. So that's why most cobblers use it on their premium work. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. We need to make our fiddle back waist insert before we put the sole on. Okay, now the way our fiddle back waist works is there's a leather insert which is arched in the middle, so it pushes the leather sole out on the outside, but it's dead flat on the inside, obviously. It's really just for aesthetic purposes. It does look quite nice, but you have to get it just right. So I've got our initial insert here, and then we've just got an extra hump that we're going to put in the middle there. And once we've secured it in place, then we can start putting glue on our soles. Okay, cool. So we've got our boot prepared with our fiddle back in there and the cork there, ready for cement to go on, and our JR sole ready for cement to go on. So we'll take our pot of contact adhesive and start getting sticky. Apply it all around the edge here. Now you might notice that I only show you one shoe at a time. That's really just because it makes sense. You don't need me to show you things twice, but don't worry, there is always a partner to every shoe that you see. His brother. His brother's already been done, actually. And now I'm just showing you this guy. Okay, now I'm just going to let that cure for 5 minutes, let it go off, and then I'm going to do a second coat because the JR leather is very absorbent and the glue soaks in a lot. So although we're stitching it on, we still want a nice solid bond of glue on there. So once it's dry, and then I'm going to pop it in the heat lamp to activate the glue and stick it all together. Okay, rock and roll, time to get our sole on. He's all nice and hot. So we're going to line it up just right. Let's obviously try and get our logo in the middle, and then roll him on over our fiddle back waist. Bit of elbow grease, get that in place. And it's time to use our muscles. Hammer time. People sometimes ask why I don't just press it. We're going to hammer it first so that we secure all of the edges, so that we have a nice contoured shape, and we don't want it to bend inwards. Of course, that's not the shape you would want a shoe, and your foot naturally kind of goes that way anyway. And to secure everything in the middle, we're going to press it afterwards anyway. Very careful to not get hammer marks. Okay, cool, let's give it a press. Ah, there we go. Come on. Okay, so our sole is on, starting to take shape. So now what we've got to do is just whip around the edges and take off the excess leather on the machine, ready for stitching. Now obviously what I'm doing here is cutting our channel for the blind stitch, and this is very delicate and very tense. I always feel like there should be some tense music, like when Spock had to fight Captain Kirk. Bum, 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 bum. Right, let's concentrate, come on. If we don't fight, Captain, they will kill us both. Right, that's enough of that. Right guys, now if you're wondering why I'm showing you the finished shoe and the blind stitch at this stage, do not ask. Absolute fiasco involving deleted footage and the cock-ups of the editing stage. But whatever, I just wanted to show you the blind stitch so you get an idea what it's all about. So it's underneath, and we're just going to fold this flat back over and no one will be any the wiser. So what we're going to do is just get our glue and just run around our leather flap so we can pop them back down. God, this video is going to be arse backwards when it's done, and now the phone's ringing. Forgive me guys, forgive me, I'm just a man. Well, YouTube videos can't always be perfect. Alright folks, so the sole portion of our repair is done. We've got our fiddle back waist just there and the blind stitch I'm quite happy with. Now next order of business is I'm just going to finish around the edge of the sole, do the finishing touches before we move on to the heel block. So let's ink it up. Okay, cool, so moving on, just letting the stain soak in on the soles, we can move on to the heel blocks. Now the heel blocks have actually managed to salvage quite a lot of the original and just rebuild them with layers of new stacked leather. The heels we're using today are these quite cool half leather, half rubber Vibram Diego heels. So our rubber portion here is actually Vibram, so it's going to be nice and hard wearing. So I'll show you these cool little customers. Quite pleased with the finish on those. Pop them out of the way. Once again, time to get sticky. Get our adhesive on our top lift. 2 top lifts. Da, 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 da. And on our heel blocks. Okay, so just moving back to the sole, before we put the heel block on, I'm just going to complete the finish. So we're going to give it a wax and a shine finish. So we're using the good old Glow Fake that you might have seen me using before. My favourite. Got to be careful with it though, because like I said, they don't make it anymore. This stuff comes up really waxy and glossy if you give it a nice layer. And then give it about 10 minutes to harden really, and then we go and shine it off. Alright, now back to heel blocks. Now I've popped them in the heater and our glue is nice and hot and tacky. What we need to remember is there's a pattern on our heel, obviously. Now we need to make sure that that lines up, it's all centralised and not hanging off to one side of the heel block once it's all trimmed around and sanded down. So what I like to do is just pop it face down on some paper so we won't damage it, and then put our heel block central on it like so. One thing you need to make sure is when you put the heel blocks on is that the block and the heel is level for the shoe, so that the customer doesn't feel any imbalance underfoot. Some people like to level this out, put the heel block on first and then the heel. Other people do it this way. I prefer to do it this way because we need to finish this inside edge, and it's much easier to finish this inside edge before it's on the shoe, so we don't risk damaging the sole. Anyway, moving on. If you can see my flashing lights just here, it's not the police coming for me, they're Christmas lights. Right, so now the block is all shaped up and sanded. Just going to stain this inside edge. Going to leave the top until later because I want to get the tacks in before we stain it, as we're doing brass tacks, and I want everything to be nice and neat. And whilst we're here, as soon as we're on a roll, we can just get our paste straight onto the heel block, ready for putting on the shoe. And we're going to nail the heel block on from the inside out, which I won't show you because it's a pants video, but well, they're going to press it on before we put the tacks in anyway, and then move on to the brass tacks on the outside. Okay, we are getting there. It's coming together now. I'm just putting the brass tacks in the heels. I'm not sure how well you can see this. I guess I'll find out in the editing section of the video. But there we go. Now what I like to do with these is just leave the head of the nail just poking out. Okay. And then what we're going to do, I'll show you on these first two before we get carried away. We're just going to snip off the heads and then finish the tack home. Okay. And this way, not only does it look smarter, but the nail is dead flush with the leather, so it doesn't poke out at all, scratch any flaws. It's also going to make the leather last longer. God, you can't really see at all, can you? Oh well. I just realised what I just said. It's not going to make the leather last longer. They're not magic nails, like magic beans. What it is going to do is going to be dead flat, so it's going to wear evenly. That's what I was trying to say. Lovely job. Okay, now we're on the home stretch. So there's our tacks in our Diego heel. And now it's back to one of my favourite bits, the staining. Right, now isn't there a band called Stained? I think there is, you know. So we can just go over this, give it a nice finish, and we're not going to ruin it by whacking it with a hammer as we put in our tacks in. And this chestnut stain is really going to look nice against the brass tacks. Okay, so let that soak in. We just need to ink around the edges, polish it up. So I'll just show you that, and then we're pretty much done. We can start looking at the uppers. Okay, that is the sole done. Got our fiddle back in there, Diego heels, a blind stitch. I'm relatively happy, some slight imperfections in the leather, but I'm pretty happy with how that's come out. So anyway, now we can turn our attention to the uppers that just need a little bit of TLC. Okay, my lovely people, it's business time. So to start restoring our uppers, what we need to do is clean them first, get rid of all the dirt and waxy deposits of old polish, so it's ready to absorb the nutrients we're going to put on it. So we're going to use our Saphir Gentle Cleanser and a Selvet cloth. So you could do with a new one, but as long as we've got a clean area, we're all right, because we're going to be taking old residue off. Okay, so just get this, and we'll just gently work on all the areas that are dirty. And we're going to do the entire upper, so it's all ready to absorb the conditioner, but we especially want to work on the parts that have got a bit of polish on it, so we can get it off. Okay, so now we've got every speck of grub on. What we've done is stripped the leather down to its bare bones. We've taken all the nutrients out of it. So we need to recondition it with new nutrients. So that's where our conditioner comes in. So for our conditioner, I'm using this Woolly Creme Essential. A little bit underrated, but I find it's fantastic. Of course, it's got a fresh cloth, because from this point onwards, we're only putting on fresh polish. So we're just going to work the conditioner into every single crack and pore of the leather, because we're going to soak into the pores, just like skin, and moisturize it really. And we're putting in oils and nutrients that are going to keep the leather supple and increase the longevity of its life. Okay, so once we're happy we've got a good coat of conditioner in, we're just going to let it soak in and dry about 5 minutes, and then we can work on putting a bit of colour on it. You know what time it is. It's coffee time. Coffee. Right, Now our conditioner's all dry, soaked in. Just going to put a bit of colour on the faded area. So I'm using a cream. Now this is Puro, quite a nice brand. I've got a lovely chestnut here. So this is just to bring back to life some of the faded areas, really around the creases. Okay, so we've just let the colour soak in and develop a bit. Now we're going to take off the excess and give it a nice shine, buff it up with a horsehair brush. Quick commercial break. And you know, I was going to give this a waxy oiled finish, but I'm quite happy with that. It's come up really beautifully. So I think we're done, people. Okay, my lovely people, our project is done. Our Trickers boots have had full JR soles with a fiddle back waist, half blind stitch, Diego Vibram heels and brass tacks, and of course restoring the uppers. I'm really happy with that job. Always room for improvement. I'm going to give myself a B+ for that one. Now, I got a dash because I'm getting mad busy in the shop today. I'm just shooting out to do a car key for a customer. But thank you for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, hit like. It helps other people see this content. If you're new to the channel, welcome, subscribe. I'm doing weekly videos. Now, if you're interested in having something repaired, get in touch with me on the Tring Shoe Repair Facebook page and we can have a chat about your job and I can tell you what I may be able to do for you. Please don't send me anything until we've spoken because I won't know who you are or where the boots have come from. So I'll just finish off once more by saying thanks for watching and I'll catch you next time.